Hello, welcome to Making Photos. I'm Ian Butterfield, and welcome to part 3 in my series on my Lightroom workflow. There's a link to part 1 up here. If you haven't seen that already, please watch it. And there's also a link to part 2. If you've seen part 1 and not part 2, do watch both of them before watching this. We're back with the concluding part of this video series, and let me take you through the final steps in my workflow. Step 5, develop and rate. So develop and rate is where the Behringer comes into its own. To try and focus my mind even more, so I've got to process 75 images. What I can do is go to that location columns display, and I can just see either just the UK ones, which in this case are just going to be the studio, or in Spain I've got smaller numbers to work with. So I might look and think, right, those are the only ones on the Mirador that I'm actually going to work on. So let's very quickly go through the studio ones, and show you how I handle those. D for the develop module. I can now control the main sliders in Lightroom using this panel, and you can see as I move this up and down, I'm controlling the exposure. So I look at that, a little bit of brightness on there. I think the shadows need to just come up a touch with that. Vibrance looks good, and in fact I think that whole thing is looking really good. So I've now got a key program to say, right, I'm going to rate it. So I only rate the images once I've done the processing, because that's the only time I'll know whether it's exactly as I want it. So that's a 2-star. And next. And I'm looking at that and think, yeah, same settings I need. I've got a button which says paste previous. So put that on. Maybe a touch too bright, just tweak down the exposure a bit. Next. And paste previous. Exposure up slightly. These are the Bowen's lights, I can tell, because the exposure is not brilliant, not consistent. Paste previous, that's good. And looking at this, I've forgotten to rate them. So 2, next, 2, next, 2, next, and bring that down slightly. Rate that as a 2. Quite like that. We've got a problem with the corner, so I need to crop, and I'm going to press a button on here for cropping and just pull the edge in slightly with it. And I think it might need a vignette, so come out of crop, and over on my presets down at the bottom, which you've seen before, I've got a vignette option, and I think that sort of level, yeah, a level 2 vignette. We'll make that one work. Yep. So that again set as 2-star. And I will keep going through these now and work my way through all the images of Naomi. So that's all the Naomi photos done and edited. I've tried to pick a couple as my 3 stars. Oh, just spotted one that I haven't rated. No, that was one I'd unflagged because I didn't think it was going to work. So you can see here on the those smart collections, I've got one which tells me whether there's something that's not flagged and not rated. In other words, I've decided I'm not going to do anything with it. So those 2, I've decided not doing anything with them, so I can deselect all of those and they will go off my work list. Done, flagged and rated are all of these, so they're all the ones of Naomi that I've done. Control A to select all of them. Now at this point what I can do is, I know of those because it was a shoot for a workshop. They're not items I'm going to submit to for stock, which means there are 3 work items I'm not going to do. So I'm not going to do proofreading, I'm not going to do additional metadata because that's stock information, and I'm not going to go through the library submission process. So get rid of those. And I've done the development rate, so I can take that one off as well. So that leaves me with 39 images waiting to be processed, which are all to do with that trip to Gran Canaria. Here they all are. So I'm going to get on and do those. Chosen a few as my 3 stars from the shoot, so let's have a look what we've got. Quite like the ones that I got of the barbed wire, so those are my 3 stars. And again, notice here, flagged but not rated. I have processed it, I'll give that a 2 star. So they're now done, and so all that, and take off develop and rate. Step 7, library submission. I'm going to go through this and show you what I would do it. However, none of these images are actually going to get submitted to a library. Why? Because they were taken with a point and shoot camera. It just happened to be the one I had with me. I hadn't realized those were the images I'd selected until just now. And the way I would do this, and on the box here I have a section to help me, and I've got a left and right, and I've got color controls up above. So I would go full screen, and remember this is why we do the one-to-one previews, because I can then check on these whether they are suitable quality for library submission by zooming in. And what I would do is I would step through these and decide which ones are worth submitting. And I might go, that one looks like it could make it as a library image, so I would press the yellow key and I would mark it as a yellow image and just move on. And you can see as I step through on these, that I think could, if it was the right camera, I move on, that could, none of those, yeah, maybe that one, and then we just step through, and that one possibly, and not as a library image. I rather like it, but not as a library image. And potentially that one, and go through, and so, oh yes, that one would. And then we are at the end. So what have I done there? I've just gone through those 39 images and tagged a number of them as being yellow. You can see them in here. They've got the yellow markings on. And those are potentially ones for library submission. There's 31 of them I haven't selected, so those, highlight, take the proofreading off, take the additional metadata off, library submission off, which just leaves me with these which are yellow. And you can see I've got the smart collection which highlights those, And what I do at this stage is I need to check them at 100% for stock submission, basically for them being in focus, being sharp, no noise, and for sensor dust and things like that. So I would go into the develop module and tab to get rid of the edges there, Z to zoom in to 100%, home up to the corner, have a look at the whole thing, and then I use the page up and down buttons to just view it, make sure everything's as I want with it. Stepping through, can't see any sensor dust. I'd be surprised if I saw sensor dust with it being a compact camera, but you never know. And I would look at that, and if this was with a camera and it was a suitable image, I would then go green on that. And then that automatically selects the next image. So home, move down, and that one's looking a little bit soft for what I want. So I would step through and I would hit the yellow key to remove the yellow marking on it. Moves on to the next image, home to the top. That's nice and sharp. Oh, I like that. Shame it's not the camera that's acceptable for the library, but there we go. If it was, that would have been a green. And that's all of them. So back to the library module, and what we can see here, there's 3 not selected. So those are not going to have any of the library things done to them. Proofreading, additional metadata, and library submission all taken off. And now that just leaves those which I know are now ready for library submission. So I take the library submission option off, which moves me to step 7, which is additional metadata. Now this additional metadata only applies for library submission. It only goes on with those. So metadata, I have got my own metadata presets on here. I have one for additional metadata. And so if we look down here, we can see things that they need, such as setting my pseudonym. And my pseudonym on here would be my Spain one. There's that, apply to all of them. Alamy exclusive. Now there's a little cheat here, I can do a lot of them the same, so all of those, and I'm just going to go through. Alamy exclusive, yes. Apply. Primary category would be travel. Secondary category, I'm going to have to do this slightly differently. So one is art. Art and artwork, there's a statue. That's potentially a background of some description. Have we got backgrounds? Oh, no, we haven't. So let's see what we're going to apply to it. Abstracts and backgrounds, that's the one I was looking for. That's objects. So objects, 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 and still life. And that's a landscape. Now, it's worth saying all these things are to do with a plugin called Alamy Lightroom Bridge. So the plugin for all this is Alamy Lightroom Bridge, and it allows me to send images directly from Lightroom into Alamy. But I'll do another video on that on another day. Shows people. None of them show people. So, no. So model release is not needed. Shows property. Yeah, they all do. So yes. And property release, no. So now I can look down here. I still haven't done image type. So I've got these smart collections which go through and allow me to check that everything's okay. So image type is a photograph. So those are all done. I can take off the additional metadata on there. So that pushes it down into the next area, which is output. So here I select all the images of Naomi, for example, export, and I've got an export preset, which I call ready to upload. That's all set up with the sizes and everything I need to upload my images to Zenfolio. So I would say export, ready to upload, new folder, and I would call that folder 2016 04-26 Clown Naomi, and say select folder. So all those will go out. I will do the same with the Spain ones, but with the ones of Naomi I have another export to do, and that is export, and I need to send them to Dropbox so I can supply them to Naomi. And I've got a preset called IMB Model Dropbox, so I select that, puts it in my Dropbox folder, and I will call that Clown Naomi 2016-26, and export. That puts it directly into Dropbox, so I can then send that link to Naomi. Having output those into their respective folders, it's an upload to Zenfolio. Drink an area, I will create a gallery plus 2019 10. Add photos and video, pull those in and start upload. Going to speed up the video at this point, and then it's just a case of find a suitable image to act as a thumbnail for this. I think that one. Let's cover photo and assign. And I would do exactly the same with Naomi's images. So now again, Control A, we can say the output is done. So we come down, final thing, proofreading. This is again for the idea that these are going to be sent out to a library. What I would do is I assign them to a group, which reminds me that I need to get them proofread by my wife because of my dyslexia. So now the final stage, finishing off. And I've created image groups which tell me various things. The first one says set these to purple. That's because all those keywords that I showed you at the beginning, the work list keywords, have now been removed. And what I do is I select them all, I assign them to being purple, because purple means I don't need to do any more work, no further action. And to make it doubly sure, Control A, I can then add them to a group called No Further Action, which I do here. And then finally, I can remove them from my work list and say, by hitting the B key, they come out of the Do Now list. And job done. Now, I did that with all the images working through. In reality, what happens is that I will do some geotagging, then I might get bored of doing geotagging. I think, okay, what's in the other areas I can work on? So I can move around these different tasks and use those smart collections to keep track of where I'm at. And one final thing I tend to do at this point is I go back to the folders where they are, and just so that I know they're all done, I right click on it, label the folder to be purple as well. And this one, if there were images which were going to stock, I would label it green to match up, but this time there isn't, so I'm labeling it purple. Now, it's been a bit of a long video going through that. You will have seen a speeded up version in places and an edited down version. I hope it's given you a good feel for what my workflow is like. But that is my Lightroom workflow. Is it the ultimate workflow? Probably not, but it works for me. Now, if you want to know more about Lightroom, you really need to watch the video that's on the screen up here, or some of the videos in the playlist down here. So thanks for watching this. Until next time, keep making great photos. Bye for now.